Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? So we got ourselves an interesting episode of Fire Force. It's definitely not my favorite, only because of the way it ended, kind of like lacklusterly. That was kind of like a disappointment for me. But in the grand scheme, it wasn't a bad episode at all. It was just the least, like my least favorite episode out of what we've seen so far when it came down to handling the overall situation at the end of the day. It was just kind of to me. So that's whatever. But to be fair, wow, that was pretty cool. What we get this week is a lot of information about the whole entire sister situation with them getting like burnt and practically all taken out besides two of them, and just not very much information of actually how it started. It seemed more or less like a case of combustion, like what we've been seeing throughout all of this stuff, which is interesting because when they went into combusting, they didn't turn. They seemingly just became like they just melted, like almost as if you go and pray so much to and become like a nun and all that. If you combust, you might get like it worse than others or something. I'm not sure, but from what I could see, it seemed like they got it a lot worse than anybody else. Like they literally get hit by this get hit by fire, and instead of like everybody else turning and becoming the fire and living their lives as fire, these women, these nuns, literally just get melted and their bodies were turning to ash and they were crying and the whole time during it, as almost as if it wasn't a combustion attack. It wasn't someone who just turned into fire and then started attacking, or turned into fire and then for some reason didn't want to attack, so they burnt down. Um, but you got to remember that we saw a case where the father was still sitting at a dinner table, in his infernal form, but because he didn't want to fight and didn't want to cause any damage, he just sat there. He just chilled. He wasn't crying, he wasn't in pain, seemingly, all these different things. And this case with these nuns seems special. It seems like something truly terrifying happened. And when it comes down to her saying that she was lucky that her ability activated and that's what like saved her, kind of gives you more of this feeling of like, okay, is she talking about her ability because she was already capable of making flowers or manipulating fire into flowers. So clearly she already had awakened that, or is she talking about her awakening ability of her eyes all of a sudden? Or was her eyes always a part of her awakening ability? I'm not sure. But maybe her eyes were more of the case she was talking about and being able to stop flame like we see her doing with the main character. As soon as he kicks on the jets to attack, she's turning them off, so he's literally falling down, not doing any type of damage at all. So that's actually a lot more interesting than like that's the part that made it less interesting for me, is the fact that she could just turn on and off his powers, and then at the same time he still just kind of doesn't even use his power to knock her out. Like this is the first time I think we've seen him use his hands as well, right? Like he usually never uses his hands, and this one time he decides to straight up clock her in the face. And then after punching her really hard in the face, he's like, I want to be a hero. He's like, I'm going to be a hero. So that's a very interesting way of going about telling the person that you're going to save the next time she's in danger that you're there for them, right? Like clocking her in her mouth, and then she pretty much falling in love with him after being punched in the face and being yelled at and told that he's going to be a hero regardless of whatever other people are saying or what other people believe. He's going to do something about it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So I like that part about him and his character, design and his actual philosophy and stuff. But at the same time, he should have got bodied this fight. Like she should have canceled it out, started just laying on full blunt attacks on him. Not her Sakurai tree that drops petal by petal that wasn't even hitting the little blonde nun until she finally kind of was just like in a position where she was losing control and she was talking a lot of trash. It was almost as if because she got into that type of zone, because she started talking like that, that's what actually made her, lose sight of protecting the blonde girl and let the Sakurai's petals fall even more rapidly, not rapidly, but more uncontested with her. Like she's not controlling it to not have it touch people she doesn't want it to touch. She's just like, well, whatever. I'll just let it go because I'm kind of losing control right now. So we get to see our main character fly at her with his ability two times and get completely stopped. And then the third time he goes at her, after he pretty much showed that he could withstand all of the damage she was giving to him by doing what I said she should have just continued to do, which put all the pedals on him and focus on him. But as we see, even that isn't really enough to stop our main character. So yeah, our boy is getting very, very strong very quickly. So that is a problem for these these other bad people who are going to be showing up because this fifth company is very strong. Like they are powerful, but as we see, they all got dispatched of quick and in a hurry. So it all comes down now to who can keep up with these guys, and if you can keep up with them, can you then outpower them? Because now, from what I can tell, is the Devil's Footprint stronger now. Like he has an understanding that not only can his fire be controlled, but some things inside of his body can actually work against him to make him have to work even harder to get a win out. So I don't know. I really do appreciate what they try to do with this week's episode, but the punch looked kind of on the graphic side, and then the overall like reasoning for him to just be able to get through it and be able to push her and like pretty much rush her was kind of lackluster for me. I don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you love this episode, if this is like your favorite episode. I mean, to be fair, I did enjoy learning a lot about the priest and stuff like, or the priestess, but it's just that was all that was really good about this week's episode was learning more about a character who we were guaranteed to learn about practically. So I don't know. I guess I feel some type of way about it because of the build up to him meeting the captain, and then to think that the captain's supposed to be someone that's ridiculously powerful or something along those lines. It kind of gives you this now look at it like, oh, there's captains out there that clearly aren't that powerful, that clearly aren't, that much to be worried about in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know. I just definitely want to see where this show goes. It has a very interesting plot already circling around it. So that's practically enough for me to be on board. But now to top it off, there's also a lot of little things being added up. Like for instance, our main character now needs to show up one time whenever she calls out for help. Like if she ever calls for help for needs a hero, he has to show up because he literally said he would. So I can't wait to see him live up to that promise and make this captain fall even more in love with them. But with all that being said, everybody, I hope you have an amazing day, night, evening. This is my second time recording this, so let's hope there's not a third. And I will definitely talk to you guys in the next one. So with all that being said, have an awesome one and peace.